Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Tim,
My name's Dana.
and this is the United States of Consciousness.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. So, this, Dana, is the first time I feel like a recap of previous episodes is necessary. I haven't wanted to make people feel like they couldn't jump into any one episode and feel involved, but I think it's important to sort of understand where we've been to tie in what we're talking about today, which is the law of polarity.
Yes.
So, just a quick outline of what we've talked about so far, and which is first we talked about, consciousness is primary, right? Physical stuff that's happening is because of awareness, not the other way around. We talked about mentalism, which is this concept of, mind is all, and what we're experiencing within the universal field of consciousness is from our individual minds interfacing with the field and not vice versa. And the reason why I think that's important to touch on is because we talked a lot about duality or non-duality, which is a concept of the separation between mind and matter. And what we said in previous episodes is that does not exist. But today we're talking about a different type of duality, the duality within polarity, or the opposites of everything.
Yes. Both sets of extremes, one end to the other.
Correct. And then in a different episode, we talked about the principle of vibration, right? Which is the frequency that all planes of existence, the physical, mental, and spiritual, the frequency at which they vibrate, which relates directly to their level of consciousness. And the principle of polarity really connects all of these. So we talked about, how we can raise vibrations, but today what we're talking about is the levels of which we can actually raise them. So if you think about an emotion on a slider, right? You think about fear and courage. If fear is over here on the slider all the way to our left, and courage is all the way to the right on our slider, we can use frequency to move that emotion.
Okay. Like love? Is that an
Like
example?
love and hate are an example.
Okay. And so when you move this slider, you're using it to you're changing the slider with your frequency? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. So the fundamental point of this principle is that everything is the same, right? So love and hate are what seem to us as two separate emotions, but they're really the same emotion on a different level of frequency.
So it two opposite ends of the extremes.
Two opposite ends of the extreme, but connected through one thread.
Understood.
So we can really apply this to almost, anything in our life, whether it's physical, mental, or spiritual. And emotions are just I've been into emotions lately. Emotions is a very sort of good way to view this principle because I think it's more of a language that we can understand compared to the physical. But there's examples in the physical world too that we can use, like the difference between hot and cold. There is no place where cold ends and hot starts.
Mm, okay.
The difference is in the degrees that we measure. And temperature is a perfect example because we already used the terminology of degrees.
Yes, yes. But at some juncture, right? So if you're looking at the scale, um, there's probably a neutral point. And so if you go a couple degrees this way, you're going to get a little warmer. And if you go a couple degrees the other way, you're going to get a little colder. So there's bound to be a neutral point, right? Where it ends and begins.
Sure, relative to whatever you're comparing temperature to.
Okay. I do enjoy emotions. It's my wheelhouse. I actually experienced polarity this morning, not even realizing that I was experiencing it.
Okay.
Hmm I had the opportunity to look outside of myself a bit. I was upset about something personal, and I was like, wow, I'm really upset about this. And, I had a moment, I had a cry, but I took a moment to ground myself. And I said to myself, I was like, Dana, it doesn't feel like it in this moment, like you're sad in this moment, but there is happiness on the other side of this moment. Like, this is something that you didn't know that you needed to learn. It's presented to you. And when you learn it and you're on the other side of it, you will feel better. And I instantly went from feeling not so great. I had like a really low vibration and I transitioned, like, just by being mindful of my thoughts and looking at the emotion of like, hey, it's not great right now, but on the other side of it, it's going to be worth the lesson. I immediately changed from sad to happy. I was like, oh, the only way out is through. And once I'm through it, like, there will be a bigger purpose, right? To be an example for others.
But it was the same emotion that you were experiencing.
Right. Right. All within like a few minutes, right? Like you had given advice about how powerful it is to be mindful of our thoughts. And it's also important to be mindful of your emotions. And I think that's where this principle comes into play is practicing that polarity and being mindful of your thoughts so that you can shift through that scale, right? I
Yeah.
don't have to have a terrible day today. I don't have to be sad all day today. I can have a great day today.
Okay.
Tim, I have a question for you.
Yeah, I love questions.
Why do Hermetics say that opposites are the same thing but in different degrees?
Because everything is the same, everything is connected, and the frequency at which it vibrates determines how it manifests in reality, whether that's reality of your mind or in the physical plane. It's the same thing, it's just as the vibration at which it sets.
Okay. So it's almost like your ability to shift yourself?
Yeah, or shift whatever. So, like, I think fear and courage is a good way to look at this, right? Fear and courage are sort of on that same scale, at least the way that I see it. And the frequency at which you view something, and it's hard not to be specific. So let's say you want to make a big life move, a big life change, right? The emotions around that life change can manifest itself in a variety of different ways. But ultimately, the motivation is still the same, right? Like the need, the want is still the same. Depending on how you what your level of consciousness is, either in the moment or about the topic or in your life in general, is going to dictate how you view that change and how you go about it.
Okay.
And you can either, like, I guess, if we're looking at two extremes, which I love to be extreme, you can view it and you can be sort of riddled by fear, or you can have courage. But ultimately, it's the same thing. It's on the same scale. It just looks as a different outcome. And when we say we, control our destiny, we manifest our destiny, or whatever happens around us, we're in control over. This is exactly what we're talking about. When we're going to make a life change, the frequency at which we vibrate, our level of consciousness, is dictating the outcome of that. And it's not that life is happening to us, it's that we are controlling it with our thoughts and emotions. And that's why I love this principle, because it ties all that together.
I love that too. So it's safe to say for our listeners and for ourselves that learning this principle will actually help guide you through life and through changes. And you are really, truly in control of that experience. It doesn't have to be miserable.
That's correct. Yeah. And that's why I felt like it was important to sort of go back and talk about, some of the previous episodes, because without that fundamental understanding or belief that we are not separate from the world around us, and actually our thoughts and emotions dictate the outcomes that we see in the world around us. Without that, it's kind of hard to understand the importance of the principle of polarity.
Mm. Yeah, well, it's almost like it's all meant to be, right? Like the trajectory was going to happen all along anyway, and you're like meant to learn along the way. Is that
Yeah.
right? It's really beautiful. And I think that we get, as humans, we get caught up in the day to day and we get stuck. We get stuck in these really low vibrations. And it's actually really in your best interest to remember that your mind controls that and you don't have to be stuck in that low vibration.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked a lot last week about, different ways to raise our frequency and vibration, but I think a lot of times just being aware of something changes something. You know,
Yeah,
just being aware that, two seemingly opposite emotions are the same emotion on a sliding scale, and we have control over that based on the frequency that we vibrate, like, that's pretty powerful.
it's life changing.
Yeah,
That's beautiful. Would a good visual representation of this principle be something like a yin and yang symbol,
it's exactly what it is, yeah.
like light and dark?
Mhm.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, and each part is within the other, and they're direct opposites, but they're one.
That makes me super excited.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it's
like
exactly what it is.
it's like a balance that's all around us all the time
Mhm.
that we almost have to be mindful for ourselves to achieve. That's beautiful. This reminds me of what we spoke about last week with the study, Dr. Emoto's study with the snowflakes. And so, even though love and hate are the same, that snowflake that is feeling hate is going to be like, excuse me, a much different frequency and shape. And I think that's true of like humans too, right?
Oh, it's exactly that, but they're all snowflakes,
Right.
right? Just
Right.
based on the vibration that's being put onto them, that's how they manifest in reality, but at the end of the day, they're all snowflakes.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So good.
Can we look at a different example in, like, the physical world that might trigger this for you? So, I was thinking about this. Um, let's say you're traveling north
Okay.
on the globe, okay? At some point in traveling north, you eventually travel south.
Okay.
Is that fair?
For sure.
So there's really no difference in the direction that you're traveling. It's just the word that we're calling it, like, to help sort of describe our physical, you know, what we're sensing and what we're saying and what we're experiencing, but ultimately it's the same thing.
You are traveling.
You're traveling. Yeah.
I like it. That's very practical. I think it's easy to get caught up in emotions. And this
Yeah.
feels, yeah, this feels like an incredibly handy tool to have a real gauge on those emotions.
I think what's interesting with specifically with emotions and frequencies, like, the more important something is to us, the harder it is to sort of conceptualize and see differently. And the things that are less important to us, we're probably manifesting all the time the way that we want them. They're just not important to us, so we don't see it.
Oh,
But the things that truly matter to us and, you know, we we feel so much around,
Yeah.
that's much harder to view differently, and it's likely much harder to change the frequency of.
Mm, I agree.
Yeah.
So, how can we help people? What advice would you give to somebody when they're having this emotional experience? What advice would you give for them to help them ascend and transcend to get that ultimate consciousness?
I think whatever we're experiencing or dealing with, we have to find a way to change our perspective. We have to find a way to view something differently. And I think we have to be super careful to monitor our thoughts around it. And it's the same advice for the rest of the principles, which is whenever we're experiencing a negative state of mind, a negative emotion, negative experience, a negative outcome, we really have to look within ourselves and be the reason why that's happening. Like, one of my biggest pet peeves in life is when somebody has this sort of victim mentality, for lack of a better term, like, and by that I mean life is happening to them. They're just like passengers and shit happens to them. They have nothing that they can do about it, or they have no say in it. Um
I mean, that's essentially just someone that avoids accountability, right?
yeah. Yeah, but I think it's more than that. I think some people like really
Agreed.
fundamentally believe that they don't have control.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah. So we first need to understand we do have control. We especially have control over our thoughts and feelings. And when we change those, everything else changes around us.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So one time you had said to me, I was thinking about this morning. You just like shot me real straight, and you were like, "Dana, none of it matters." You were like, "It was just, it's all supposed to happen as it should. Like, just let it go. Like, it's okay." And it sounds like a really simple piece of advice, but because I remember at the time saying to myself, like, "Oh, but it matters to me." But when you remove yourself from that emotion and you look at the higher like thought process, I was like, wow, Tim's right. Like it happened. Like and we're moving on, right? Like it actually really doesn't matter. And so to kind of apply it to this principle, it's like, I was really on that lower end of that frequency. Like I was really tethered to it. I was like, no, but this hurts. Right. But I had to do my own emotional, like growing to slide that scale to like get to the other side of like, yeah, that did happen and it's not so bad. And it actually really doesn't matter. Right. Because it taught me the lessons that I needed for myself. And so because of that, I'm in a much different healed space. And so my frequency is different. Like my life is different. Like I carry myself differently and I attract different vibrations, right? Like, so instead of attracting that really low frequency, like now I'm like, oh, like you're happy. I'm happy too. Like it's like almost like a new age modern day practice, right? To have, for lack of a better word, control, right? Of
Yeah.
that emotional state. It's like controlling your polarity. Would that be right?
Yeah, I mean, just think about it this way. If you are if you are way negative on any sort of a topic, right?
Yeah.
Physically, emotionally, spiritually. I give this advice to people all the time because to expect somebody to go from super negative and just tell them, "Well, just be positive."
Right.
Just just go to the other side of the scale. Like, if that was possible, people would just do that.
Right.
So a lot of times, I'll just say that to just promote detachment, because if you can get to, like, neutrality, if you can go from super negative to just sort of in the middle, then you can start to work towards a higher frequency vibration. But to expect somebody to go from negative to positive, it's it's really not. It's probably not good advice, helpful advice.
Well, because there's more context to it, right? Like the person has to be willing to do the inner, deeper shadow work, to really look at
Yeah,
themselves, like you were saying earlier, like to take that vulnerable inward look. Because oftentimes people are just mirrors. Like they trigger you for your own reason, right? Not because they're doing anything. And so I guess it's up to you, right? Like, are you going to do the work and move that scale? Because it's not, you're right. Like, it's not like a light switch by any means.
yeah, and I think sometimes removing ourselves from what we think and feel is, the best way to get good perspective on it, and that's why my first piece of advice was to change perspective, but removing yourself is the way to do that.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Do you think that emotion and logic are the same thing on either sides of the scale?
no,
No. Tell me more.
n I think logic is just a byproduct of us trying to, make sense of the world around us. I don't think when we have, like, true thoughts, they can be like capital T true thoughts, they
Mm,
can be defined as logic. I think logic is sort of our way of working around this place that we're in, but I'm not sure that I definitely don't think it's related to emotion, but I don't even think it's related to true thinking.
yeah. I think logic is simply just reasoning,
That's right.
right? And so for me personally, I think that logic and emotion, they simply coexist. It's just what we are as humans, right? Like we have this mechanics, our brain, we have this mechanical system, but we also have our emotional system. And I think that they have to work hand in hand. And you can't solely rely on your emotions and you can't solely rely on logic. I just think you'll end up pretty dead in the water if you pick one or the other,
I think at a certain level of consciousness, that's absolutely correct. I think
right?
once you have a high enough frequency, I don't think you have logic.
Do you have emotion?
Of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, because at a certain level of frequency, like, at a certain level of consciousness, you don't need to reason what you're but by saying we're reasoning the world around us, and I agree with you, that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to make sense of something that we don't understand.
Which is human instinct.
Sure. Yeah,
So when we think about transcending levels of consciousness, consciousness itself is its own scale, right?
it is. That's
And
right.
so we're ultimately moving up that scale
Yep.
to a place of peace.
So you it's exactly right, right? Like, the principle of polarity, if it's a true principle, if it's a law of the universe, it applies to everything.
So good.
Yeah.
I feel better already.
How do we end this thing?
I'm not sure, Tim. Take it away.
Okay, that's the end of this week's episode. Thank you everybody for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with somebody if you think that this could do any good in their life. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Happy Thanksgiving.